seaweed. This particular type is nori, and therein lies a story. Tell you the truth, I don't eat too much of this because usually it's used to wrap sushi, and I have a fish allergy, so I don't eat much sushi, but I do like history. So we're going back to the 17th century when a Japanese emperor and his followers got lost, and eventually they ended up at an inn. And the innkeeper served them a soup, which was gelatinous because he had made it with seaweed. But it seems that it wasn't exactly to the liking of the emperor because much of it got thrown out. And it happened to be a cold night. And when the innkeeper came out in the morning, he looked at the soup and he saw that it had separated into layers, a liquidy layer and a solid layer. And the solid layer turned out to be sort of a precipitate of seaweed. Well, eventually this came to be called agar, from the Malayan word for the kind of seaweed that was used, and it found application as a gelling agent. This particular kind of seaweed contains a polysaccharide called agarose. It has a great ability to bind water. So you will find this agar as an extract in many commercially available foods like ice cream, which gives it kind of a thickness. But in the middle 1800s, when bacteriology came to the forefront after Louis Pasteur had introduced his germ theory of disease, it turned out that the same substance, this agar, was a great nutrient for bacteria. And it became the most common culture medium. And today in microbiology labs, they still, of course, use this. Today, there's a lot of talk about the benefits of eating seaweed. And I'll go along with some of this. It certainly is better than potato chips. It is very salty, but you don't tend to eat a whole lot of it. Why do people like the taste of seaweed? Because it contains a lot of glutamic acid. And glutamic acid is the parent compound of monosodium glutamate, or MSG, which is a flavor enhancer. So that's the reason that a lot of people like to snack on seaweed. Now, what about in terms of nutrition? The fact is that there isn't a whole lot in there because it is so light that there's almost nothing in there. But there is one tiny little concern, and that is the iodine content. The iodine content of seaweed is very, very high. We need iodine, that's for sure, because it is required for the functioning of the thyroid gland. The thyroid hormones contain iodine. But too much iodine in the diet can be a real problem for the thyroid gland. It has been linked to all kinds of thyroid problems. So you don't want to overdo seaweed. But I don't think people tend to do that because it isn't all that tasty. I mean, I can taste this one because there's no fish around. Sort of salty, and it does have a little bit of a MSG flavor to it. Not particularly to my liking, but a lot of people like to indulge in this. But it's not something that should be consumed on a regular basis every day because of the high iodine content. But there's one last issue with seaweed, very, very interesting. Many types of seaweed contain a compound called bromoform. And bromoform, when fed to cattle, reduces their tendency to release methane. Cattle eat all kinds of things. And when they belch methane. Methane is a powerful greenhouse gas, and it certainly would be beneficial to cut down on it. So research is now ongoing to take seaweed and feed it to cattle to cut down on the greenhouse effect. Doesn't seem to like it.